In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found no proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson. This week on the show, XR artist and immersive media director Brenda Chen is on hand to talk about her work bringing virtual concerts to life. Koons and Sam Pinkleton, co-directors and choreographers of the production of Head Over Heels, currently playing at the Pasadena Playhouse, join us to talk about their all-new experientially staged vision of the Go-Go's Jukebox musical. And Ian Hamilton of Upload VR drops in, and we get philosophical about what all this buzz about the metaverse means for shaping how we see the world. Plus, the return of the pick of the week and headlines. But first, updates from the next stage. We are beyond excited to announce that Johnny Grant, co-founder and chief creative officer for London's Department Studios, producers of the Arkham Asylum immersive experience coming to London next fall, will be joining us live in Pasadena at that aforementioned Pasadena Playhouse this January 7th through 9th. Johnny has been working in the immersive realm forever, and with Arkham Asylum bringing Batman to the immersive realm, it is one of the two highest profile projects in all of immersivedom. Right up there with a certain Star Cruiser that a few people we know are working on. Johnny joins his partner in the department, Hamish Jenkinson, creative technologist from Walt Disney Imagineering, artist Arisa Puno, Sarah Ellis of the Royal Shakespeare Company, the authors of the Immersive Industry Report, the team at Room Escape Artist, and so many more in a lineup that's still expanding. Oh, no, we're not done yet. I got a couple for you next week that are just gonna, you're gonna be so tickled. The only way to get to experience the full thing, the full experience, is to be here live with us this January in Pasadena. That's also how you'll be able to participate in our mini festival, and we've just added the amazing Ministry of Peculiarities to the lineup. This is an innovative immersive game that blends immersive performance and escape game sleuthing in ways that have surprised and delighted our curators. With a 90-minute run of show, veteran actors from LA's immersive theater scene, and the ability to accommodate up to 12 guests at a time, the Ministry of Peculiarities is sure to be one of the most talked about selections in the next stage's mini-fest. Get all the details at experiencethenextstage.com. Click on updates to read more. 3-day badges are on sale now. Click on badges. And we're only putting 200 general admission badges up. So 200 general admissions plus the 100 folks who are coming in on scholarship. That's it. Once they're gone, they're gone. Rarer than any NFT. And now, here's Catherine with the headlines.
Hello, this is Catherine Yu, Executive Editor of No Proscenium, and here's what's in the Immersive headlines for November 12th. Metaverse, we've got even more developments in the area as companies rush to claim territory in the yet-to-be-defined, discovered, developed space. This time around, Niantic has officially launched its Lightship augmented reality platform. The goal is to literally map the entire physical world to better integrate it with digital technologies, which can then be used for all sorts of purposes, including non-gaming ones. As Niantic CEO John Hanke told Wired, they believe that augmented reality is, quote, where the real metaverse is going to happen, end quote. And to back all this up, Niantic have also announced a $20 million Creators Fund to back promising uses of their Lightship platform. Developers already on the platform include Coachella, the PGA of America, the artists JR and Superblue, the XR wellness company Trip, Universal Pictures, and Warner Music Group. Disney has also planted a flag in the metaverse, kind of. On an earnings call, Disney CEO Bob Chapek said, "Our efforts to date are merely a prologue to a time when we'll be able to connect the physical and digital worlds even more closely, allowing for storytelling without boundaries in our own Disney metaverse." End quote. Chapek offered no additional details on Disney's plans. The New York Times turned to an 8-year-old player of Roblox to talk about the metaverse. Writer Alex Williams' son Anton is one of the 43 million daily active users. So what exactly is there to do in Roblox? Well, says Anton, you can make your own rules. You can ride motorcycles, own a house, throw a party. You can even get a job. As an 8-year-old. Do note that the last part of Anton's statement is referring to Roblox's own virtual economy, fueled by its currency called Robux. And not to be outdone, the account at Iceland on Twitter put up a parody video about the metaverse. Sporting a Mark Zuckerberg-like narrator, the video walks viewers through the idea of the quote-unquote Icelandiverse, a revolutionary way to connect the world without being super weird. Real water and real humans? Imagine that. This week, Unity also announced that it has acquired Weta Digital, the award-winning digital effects group, whose work is featured heavily in movies like The Lord of the Rings and Avatar. Unity's acquisition includes Weta's artist tools, pipeline, intellectual property, and engineering talent. According to the announcement, Weta Digital will continue as a standalone entity known as Weta FX and will become Unity's largest customer in the media and entertainment space. And a hearty congratulations goes out to the winners of this year's Augie Awards, which were announced at the AWE USA 2021 event in Santa Clara, California this past week. Winners included the teams behind Brianna's Garden, the Edge VR Matterhorn experience, and Snap's Spectacles. And these have been your Immersive Headlines.
Joining us now is Brenda Chen, an immersive media director and XR artist. You can often find Brenda's work at The Wave. In fact, there's a concert coming up that she's directed involving artists whose name you might recognize. We'll get into that a little bit later. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us on the show this week.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Sutu reached out about you, and we love Sutu, so we knew that if he said you got to talk to Brenda, we had to. And you've worked on some projects with him, so
I love Sutu. Sutu's the best.
Yeah, he's really great. What that sounded like me be like, yeah, he's really good. No, Sutu is really great. I just
Sutu is the best. He is the best.
No, really, really, really good. I get to finally meet him in the flesh this January. So, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, one of the things we make is these XR based concerts, and I'm wondering, and this is the kind of work you've been doing over at The Wave. What do those entail that a traditional concert doesn't? How do you think? How should we think about these things as opposed to, say, a live show?
Yeah, gotcha. I think virtual concerts are way different than actual live shows, even though they are both concerts. I kind of like to consider them as their own genre or entity. It almost feels like, I would say if a video game and a concert had a baby.
Well, sometimes these happen in game engines, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, we do build them in game engines, but I guess, I'm used to calling them virtual concerts, not XR concerts, but they're kind of the same thing. But the way they kind of differ from real concerts is that you're not really bound by the rules of reality, right? Since it is created in a game engine, you can do whatever you want. So, for example, whatever artist, musician decides to come in and do a concert, they don't have to be themselves. Beyonce doesn't have to be Beyonce. Beyonce could be a giant flaming tiger.
I thought Beyonce was a giant flaming tiger.
Yeah, maybe she is. I don't know. I've never met Beyonce, but
there's a part of me that's why would Beyonce want to be anything but Beyonce? And then I'm thinking what would Beyonce want to be if not Beyonce? That's kind of fast. Anyway, sorry, I'm thinking too much about Beyonce.
That's the real questions of life. What would Beyonce rather be?
Yeah. Anyway, it's like a Zen koan. If Beyonce does not want to be Beyonce, who and what does Beyonce want to be? Anyway,
she wants to be a flaming tiger.
Now I'm just going to rewatch Lemonade. All right, where were we? Yes, so she could be a flaming tiger, right? They could the imagination is limitless.
Yeah, she could be a flaming tiger at the bottom of the ocean. We don't have to conform to those rules, and so it can be as magical as you want. But I think the thing that like really differentiates a virtual concert from like a live concert that makes it extra special is kind of like the added interaction between fans and audience members. So like if you go to a normal concert, unless you're super rich or super lucky, you're probably in the back, right? Like you're never going to be able to interact with your favorite artist. But in a virtual concert, like everybody's equal. You're seeing the same thing that everyone else is seeing on their screen. And at least at Wave, for our Wave concerts, we have a lot of built-in interactions that kind of make it your concert experience extra special. So we have a thing called Waiver Cam that lets fans kind of pipe in like their image into the show via Zoom in a lot of our concerts, especially like the Alice in Wonderland one. Like her diehard fans showed up in the middle of the concert and she was able to see their face while she was performing, and she like gave them like live shout outs, and like that was really special. Like this one lady was like pregnant and she was like on the screen like holding her unborn baby and kind of like dancing, and that was like a really magical moment that you can have in a virtual show that won't happen, you know, like in a live show. We've also done like live Q&As where fans, you know, can type in the chat the questions for the artist, and then they'll have their chat kind of pop up in the world. Like in the Lindsay Sterling show, it popped up as, you know, a little moth, and then Lindsay was able to respond to their question in real time. And so you kind of get that back and forth like dialogue between like fan and audience, or fan and artist. That's really special. That won't actually happen at a live show. And since these shows kind of happen in real time through a game engine, with all these like interactions happening, we're able to have the artist and fans work together to kind of craft the show in real time. And so, for example, like we have these built-in like games almost where, you know, fans can like work together like on different teams. Like for example, in our Pentakill show, they're able to like be on different teams and kind of compete to like affect the show in a certain way. We've had like fans like vote for like which environment we travel to, or like what song the artist should play next, and like what should the artist be wearing. And so it's more of a collaborative concert experience where like every single time we like rebroadcast it, it's different, because it really depends on like how the attendees are feeling and like how the artist is feeling. And I think that makes it really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like there's a dimension here on the interactivity side of
Mhm.
moving into kind of a realm of co-creation, right? Which is sort of one of the
Mhm.
pillars of immersive techniques. And then there's
Yeah.
also, when you were talking about, say, like, you know, like the fan who was pregnant and like who the artist could see in real time, like there's a way in which there's an intimacy that can be kind of fostered.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though it's still this mass broadcast platform, there is this kind of paradox of like the intimacy and a big thing. I think a big thing when it comes to like immersive, like the fan impulse
Mhm.
that leads people down into immersive is often a matter of, you know, the very human thing about wanting to be seen. Like, you
Yes,
know,
exactly.
and not necessarily in a shown off way, but because I think people often also worry about that too. Like you talked about, let's say, immersive theater folks, and like, oh, am I going to get dragged on stage? Like, is that what's going to happen? And that's, people are terrified of that. But
Yeah,
it's such a different thing where, you know, no, but we see you, we see who you are, and you can just be you, and you can be yourself authentically, and
yeah, for
affirming
sure.
that. And that's interesting that the platform has these affordances in it.
Yeah, isn't it kind of wild, right? Like you'd think if a concert becomes like digital, almost feel like the screen would be separating you from the experience and that it would be less intimate. But actually, it's the complete opposite. It's more intimate because like this technology, rather than being, you know, kind of like a wall separating you from the artist, is actually allowing you to connect with the artist.
Yeah. Speaking of the artists,
Uh-huh.
the concert that's coming up, you've got one with Justin Bieber coming up later this month, and you've worked on other projects, including with folks like The Weeknd, so some pretty big names. You've also worked on Brianna's Garden, which you worked on
Hmm.
with Sutu, which for those who didn't catch that episode, that's the AR tribute to Breonna Taylor. What's what's sort of the duty of care as an XR artist, as a director of this stuff? What's the
Hmm.
duty of care when bringing these so very public figures into this format?
Yeah, we have to be really careful because we are working with like real human beings, and not just like some cartoon character, right? That doesn't have feeling. So if we represent someone badly, there are like real world implications. And so anytime, we do a concert or like, work on a project like Brianna's Garden, we make sure to like work with the person that we are representing themselves, or at least like people who are really close to them, to make sure that we represent them in a good light. So for Brianna's Garden, Lady Phoenix and Sutu were the people that directed that project, and they worked really closely with Brianna's family just to make sure like however they represent her um, is in like a positive light, and they kind of made that project as a way to like honor her life, but also as a project where the community can kind of come together and heal collectively. And so in that case, like it is extra important that they represent her correctly. And yeah, that's just a matter of just like making the avatar and then just going back and forth and like going back to her family and being like, hey, like, are you cool with this? And then just really valuing and respecting their input. And I think that's like what you really have to do when you're working with anyone's likeness. And at Wave, we do the same thing. Like anytime we create an avatar, um, we go through that same process. So we have like a really amazing sculptor, shout out Candy Quatch, who like sculpts all the likenesses, and she'll like go online, find like the most recent images of them where like the person looks the best, and like does like a sculpt of them. Like usually me or like another artist will kind of just like go online, try to see like what that person likes to wear and kind of come up with like a mood board. And then we'll like show the artist kind of like what we came up with and was like, hey, like, what do you think? And then it'll just be like a back and forth dialogue of them being like, we don't like this, or like, I want this. And then it's just back and forth and tweaking it until they are happy. Because I mean, like for wave shows, at least like they're all live. Like the artist will come into our office and like put on a mocap suit. And, if they see their avatar and they don't like it, they're not going to actually like perform. Right. So it's kind of in everybody's best interest that we like represent them to the best of our abilities.
Do they tend to? Do some people come with like a lot of ideas about exactly how they want to be, like at the beginning of the process, or is it off? Do you often find, because these folks are often like incredibly busy? Like I can't even imagine how busy like a superstar is, like compared to like normal human workflows. Just the sheer number of meetings, like a life as meetings with occasional performances. Like I think once upon a time I dreamt of that would be cool, and the older I get, the more I'm like, it just sounds like a lot of meetings. But do they sometimes come like charged and like, all like, I want to be this, like this is how I want to be, or is it so new still that folks are like waiting to just get pitched and see what you guys come up with, or is it a little both?
It's a little of both. I would say though, like surprisingly, most artists have just wanted to be themselves in the virtual space. Like no one has ever come up to us and been like, hey, I want to be a flaming tiger,
I got this feeling you really want someone to be a flaming tiger. So,
no, I don't know why I came up with that. It just like kind of, I don't know. My mind is weird. Like it just, weird things pop up.
It's
but
okay. You're in a safe space for weirdos. So,
yay. But yeah, no, they normally, I would say most of our concerts, usually we kind of like pitch an idea to an artist and then they kind of give us our feedback, or and then it kind of just evolves over time. It's kind of, it depends on like the artist. Yeah, some artists do come and they're like, okay, like I want to do something like this. But just, yeah, everybody's different.
We're suddenly again in this massive hype cycle about XR. Metaverse is on everyone's lips. Are you seeing this translate in this moment directly into opportunities for XR artists, or is all of this kind of hype bubble at the moment something that's really happening more on the business side of things? Because we're always so interested in how this stuff affects working artists. Like that's that's our core obsession. So I'm yeah.
Mhm.
What's your perspective on it?
Wait, do you mean like new jobs being created for like what do you
Yeah.
mean by
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Like, are you seeing that happening right now, or is that still something that's like the next wave of the cycle? No pun intended.
um No, I think it definitely is benefiting XR artists, right? Because like in order for an XR business to flourish, you kind of need someone to make the product, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just
I mean,
come up with an idea.
they'll
Yeah, you're right.
try, but
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah. So I think there definitely are like lots of opportunities since, there's so much hype. Um, I'm sure there's like a lot of like investor monies. There's a ton of like companies hiring. So if you're somebody that's like interested in making, XR experiences for a living and you have a cool idea, like I'm sure like right now is the perfect time to like go out and try to find those investors to get your project funded. Um, and yeah, I mean, just everybody's like hiring for XR now.
Before I let you go, is there like a dream project in this space that other than getting someone to be a
Ooh.
flaming tiger, that you that you've got kind of floating
A
around
dream
in your head?
project.
Yeah. I don't usually ask questions like this, but I'm curious. I'm curious.
Curious, what do you think my dream project is?
Oh, I don't know.
That's
How?
true. I
Yeah.
guess we just met.
Yeah, we just met. How would I know?
I don't know. Maybe you're a psychic or something. It is LA.
If I was psychic, I would have done everything I could have to like get people's like ATM codes or something like that, or like crypto wallet codes. That's what I would do.
My crypto wallet code. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I do have a dream project. I guess ever since I was like young, like I just love Lady Gaga. I think she's like the coolest
Father,
artist
son,
ever.
House of Gucci. Yes.
Oh my god, I'm
Yes.
so hyped for that movie.
I
But
think it's really bad, and that only
is
makes
it
me
really?
that only makes me want to see it more. Like
Wait,
I've heard so many
wait,
like
it's not out yet.
no, but like all the press screenings have been the past 2 weeks. So like they're doing all the premieres, but I hear it's bad in a way that's like can't
That's
turn
good.
away. Yeah, so bad it's good that like she's having so much. I've seen people say like, oh, if you think she's doing a bad job in this, like you have no sense of fun because she's clearly having so much fun.
Yeah.
I saw one thing say like, oh, somehow Jared Leto is playing both Wario and Waluigi right, at the same time,
Hilarious.
and just like it
Yeah.
feels it really what was another one? It was like like a vampire princess like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, like marries into the Mushroom Kingdom family. Like
Yeah.
I've seen some savage things. It only gets me more hyped. So
That is so funny.
yeah. Okay,
I
so
don't know.
Gaga,
I love her.
she's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. Like she could deliver shit on a plate and I'd be like, this is great.
Didn't she do that in a video once? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, probably. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be so cool to like direct anything for her just because I love her aesthetic. She's just so interesting and I feel like she pushes a lot of boundaries. So like a virtual concert for her could be really cool. A live tour, like literally whatever Lady Gaga wants me to do, like just call me.
I wish I had superpowers so I could just be like, oh well, surprise, because that would make this good. But unfortunately, I don't have that ability to just.
She'd be like,
manifest
Brenda, you want to
magic.
clean my house? I'd be like,
No.
sure. I'm just kidding.
Be careful with that one. Be careful what you wish for.
I gotta
Brenda.
take it back.
So, all right,
Take it back.
no house cleaning. No house cleaning.
Oh, I forgot to say something about virtual concerts earlier. I don't know
Yeah,
if
go
we could,
for
like
it.
cut that in or
No,
like if it's too late.
we'll handle it one way or another.
Okay, cool.
What's the bit? It'd actually probably be a good place for us to end on something like cogent about virtual concerts. So,
Oh,
what's
okay.
the thing you want to add about virtual concerts?
Another thing I think that makes virtual concerts so cool is that, I actually have a lot of friends who have kind of like anxiety around crowds. And so they don't actually like going to live shows because they get shoved around. And like, I'm
Yeah.
super short. So like, I can't even see sometimes when I go to concerts. And then like the whole thing that happened with like Travis Scott's concert is so like tragic,
Yeah.
And so virtual concerts kind of let you enjoy like a show from the comfort of your own home. And like, I totally get it. Like, I will not lie. Nothing beats the feeling of like dancing under strobe lights at a physical concert. But like, we can't deny that like virtual concerts are also super fun, and that's why I kind of consider them their own genre. But for people, who don't enjoy being in crowds, like, I think it is a way for them to kind of like join in on the fun and get to see their favorite artists live.
And particularly in this day and age, there's all kinds of reasons for people wanting to find an alternative.
And it's so accessible to everybody. Like, anybody can be a part of it. Like, if you live in like the middle of nowhere, it's hard to go to a physical concert, right? Like, Lady Gaga's not going to go to, I don't know. I was going to name a random small town, but I couldn't think of anything.
And
insert small town here,
She might go there. So like, just to spite you, because you wouldn't
Victorville, California.
Oh no! Now we're gonna get emails from Victorville. God, I won't get in trouble for that one. So Victorville is entirely nice.
Oh yeah.
Brenda Chen, this has been a delight.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
If folks want to check out your work, both what you do at The Wave and your other work, where can they go?
If you want to see The Wave, we actually have a concert coming up with Justin Bieber on November 18, and you can tune in to watch it on wave.watch. And if you want to check out old shows, there's some on our YouTube channel, which is The Wave XR. If you want to check out more of my work, I have a website. It is brendachenart.com, but also I'm pretty active on Twitter at Elevated Trash. If you want to follow me and check stuff out, I post a lot there.
Now, is that all one word, Elevated Trash, or is there like a hybrid? All one word,
Elevated Trash, all undercase.
Yeah, it's
trashy.
No, there's only so many good Twitter handles left, and that's definitely one of them. So,
thanks,
Brenda. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Before we get into our next interview, just want to give a quick shout out to our latest backer, Cherry Mama. Thank you, Cherry Mama, for joining us at patreon.com/noproscenium. Also want to give thanks to Rachel Zilberg and Tim Beadle for upping their pledges. You're going to make me cry, y'all. It is no joke when I say that patreon.com/noproscenium is how I pay my rent. Despite what you might think, I am not an eccentric millionaire. I did not win the lotto last month. Oh, I really wish I did. I could have gotten Star Cruiser tickets. I got to buy them just like a normal person. Anyway, patreon.com/noproscenium is how we keep all this running. The newsletters, the podcast, my car, everything that way. And if you go and look, we just get about $2,000 a month. And I live in Los Angeles. So do the math. Could use some help here. $2 or $5 a month is all we ask. And it goes really, really far with us. So thank you everyone who already gives. I know a lot of you do. Spread the word. And if you're already giving, just tell people about the show. Tell people about everythingimmersive.com and noproscenium.com. It goes a long way. Drop us a review on the iTunes. Share the content. All right. That's all of that part. Coming up next, we have our interview with Jenny Koons and Sam Pinkleton. A quick note on the technical side, these rascally machines picked the wrong microphone again. So I was hearing myself come through the Yeti, but the actual microphone picking up with either the webcam microphone or the laptop microphone. So I'm really off mic. They were on a laptop mic too, so we kind of all sound even. I could have just told you that I did it out of solidarity, but I don't like to lie to you. All right, catch you in a second. Joining us now on the show is Jenny Koons and Sam Pinkleton, the co-directors and choreographers of Head Over Heels, which is at the Pasadena Playhouse right now in an all-new form. This is the Go-Go's fueled jukebox musical. Jenny and Sam, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to be here.
So what's it feel like to get back into the swing of things and take over the Pasadena Playhouse and completely reorganize how it does business? Because I know this is a big swing.
It feels completely bananas, and also completely bananas is, I think, the only way we both would want it right now. It has felt like such a joy and such an inevitable, raucous beast of an undertaking to not just come back to the theater, but come back to the theater with a full remix of both a show and a building. It has definitely felt in keeping with the roller coaster of simply being alive right now, and we're having a blast.
So, starting with the basics, what is Head Over Heels? What's the story on this show? What's different about this production you're doing from the Broadway production that ran in 2018 and 19? From what I can tell, it's fairly different.
Yeah, the story of Head Over Heels is about a family that goes on a journey and in the end finds out everything that they needed was inside of themselves in like a very classic Wizard of Oz format. And the, I guess, provocation for this production was around the space and what it would mean to turn the Pasadena Playhouse kind of upside down and put a dance floor over the orchestra and create an invitation for people to return back to the theater after we've all been separated for a really long time. And so the adaptation is really rooted in how to best serve the space. People can't stand for an enormous amount of time, and we got excited about really reimagining the story for this particular dance floor and what that would mean and how we invite people in.
It's really exciting. I know that space fairly well because we're holding an event there in January, and I saw the layout, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if they can just let us keep the format.
That's right.
Yeah.
We keep saying that. We're like, don't you want to keep this dance floor layout? Just feels so unique, and it's also keeping the soul of the Playhouse alive. You're very consciously in the theater still, even while it's been transformed, and that feels really exciting.
Yeah. Where on the immersive spectrum does this production fall? Because we have folks who love all kinds of immersive stuff, and I'm wondering what just help the audience sort of set their expectations here, I guess.
I have an answer that you're probably not going to like, but it's completely honest, which is I think we've both made a lot of work in our lives that has been called immersive by others. I don't know what that word means. I never have. I can't use it in a sentence. There are things that I've experienced that were called immersive that have made me go like, immersive how? And there's things that I felt really immersed in. So I think to us, every project is just a question of like time and place and like, where is it and who's it for and how do we want them to feel? And so for this, it's in this kind of totally rethought Pasadena Playhouse, and some of our audience is standing. There's a dance floor. The show is staged in and among the crowd because that's what the space is giving us, and we want it to feel like a party. But I think sometimes the word immersive comes with certain trappings of like, I'm going to get pulled into something, and like that isn't really what we're thinking about. A word that we sometimes throw around as like environmental. I think on any show, the job is to place an audience in a world that they wouldn't have access to at home or on Netflix. And so that's what we're trying to do here with this big, colorful Head Over Heels.
Jenny, anything to add on that one?
Just that as you saw, Noah, in the layout of the theater, there are different ways that the audience can be invited into this. And that feels really important to us, that it's not holding one group of audience members over another. It's been really amazing to tech in that way with all of us and the designers moving throughout the space pretty constantly during the tech sessions to make sure that everyone's not only getting an equal invitation, but also finding those secret moments where like actually only those 5 people in the bleachers will see that. And even at the invited dress this weekend, there were things that happened that, 10 people at that corner of the dance floor laughed about. And in the room, you have this sense that there are multiple things happening, even while we're all experiencing one thing. And so that, I guess, to me feels quote unquote immersive, that there's not just like one shared point of view and one shared frame that we're looking at. And it should be as much for the 17-year-old from East LA as it is for the lifetime subscriber of the Pasadena Playhouse. And that's on us to create an experience that actually authentically welcomes both in.
This idea of creating work that invites multiple perspectives in, provides something more than just, a simple proscenium or a screen can. I mean, that's the heart of what we're obsessed with. And I know both of you have worked in these forms, whatever label we put on it. Jenny, you've done a number of site-specific and responsive pieces over the years. Sandy choreographed Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. There seems to be this dialogue happening with this fourth wall annihilating work and the institutions of American theater, of Broadway, major regional theaters like the Pasadena Playhouse. How is this dialogue going? Why is this dialogue happening in your eyes?
I mean, my answer for that is, I really like movies and television, and I like them best when they're good at being movies and television. And I like when theater can only be theater, when theater continuously reminds you that you're in a room together with other human beings, and not human beings on a couch over there, but like the people next to you and around you. The thing that excites me about theater is liveness, is communion. And especially after the last 2 years, like, I am only interested in making, seeing, supporting work that at every moment is actively reminding you that you're in a room with other people and those people are alive. And so that I feel about fourth wall a little bit the way I feel about the word immersive. I just never feel qualified to define those terms. I think there's people who are a lot smarter than me that have better definitions for them. I don't know what that means. I just know, for me, the stuff I'm excited about making is just, I hope, really like continuously popping with, oh, this could only be live. This could only happen now. This is going to be different tomorrow, and it's going to be different the next night, and it's going to be informed by whoever came that night. It's going to be informed by like what kind of morning you had and what the weather's like. And that's a really exciting and necessary variable to me of making live performance, and is ultimately more of a North Star than like breaking a fourth wall or trying to like, dance in the aisles. And I would say, because you mentioned Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, that was very much the governing principle of that experience, was less like, yeah, like break it down, and more like, how do we welcome a large group of people into this experience every night? How can this be an experience of hospitality? How can we say, hey, we're all in the room together. Actually, you're there and I'm here and we're better because of that. And now we're going to do this thing. And I don't think that is specific to any show. It's just for me, it's a way that I like to think that live performance continues to be necessary.
And I guess the thing I would add to that, Noah, is just to shout out institutions like the Pasadena Playhouse, because I think that your question is great and smart. And actually, as we all start to come back together, it's interesting to see what everyone is investing in and programming. And an institution like this to take a risk like this as the first show back, a big fucking party for Pasadena to say, welcome home, welcome back, and let's celebrate that in person. That's unique. I think that there's more interest in forms that are maybe what we would say non-traditional, but it's rarer than we think that institutions are actually putting money, development, space, and time behind those ideas. in the way that it might seem like everyone's doing this now. It's pretty unique.
I gotta agree with you there. Like, there may be a lot of work, but there isn't a lot of institutional support for it, and so that shift is a significant one, and one that I'm constantly monitoring. Jenny and Sam, Head Over Heels runs through when?
Currently, it runs through December 12th, I believe.
All right. Well, we are so glad you're here in the Southland with us, and I encourage everyone within the sound of my voice who is near Pasadena to go check out the show. Thank you both.
Yay!
Thanks, Noah.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin Gossett, the LA Reviews editor for No Proscenium. I'm here to introduce this week's pick of the week. Every week we meet in the Discord for Review Crew to talk about what we've seen or experienced recently, and you can hear that in this podcast feed right before this one. It's a partner to the Review Rundown on the site, and it's where we select the pick of the week. This week we have...
Noah Nelson, host of the show.
What? Someone different. Noah, what is your pick of the week?
The pick of the week for this week is the meta movie Alien Rescue.
And what can you give a short description of it before we get into why?
The description before the why. Absolutely. This is like a live action role playing experience, but done in a metaversal setting, namely the Neos VR platform. Imagine, if you will, that someone has spun up a science fiction D&D setting and then built a custom video game level for you to act it out in, and then got a bunch of actors to play all the parts other than that of the protagonist, which you are cast as. That is what it is, and it's pretty spectacular.
And so what's so spectacular about it that makes it pick of the week?
So I think with any of the XR performance stuff, like the live performance stuff, I've yet to really had a chance to be, the hero character in any of this. But also, I've always loved, aside from Star Wars, I've loved games like Mass Effect. When I played Vader Immortal, I was often talking back to the characters. They couldn't hear me, but I sure was quipping back. And this is what the exact experience I've been hoping to have all along, which is, I'm on some big science fiction rescue mission thing, and I'm running with a crew, and we're bantering, and we're hijinking while we're, dealing with good versus evil, and, galactic overlords and, extinct alien species. It's like getting to play out a dream that maybe you've daydreamed over and over and over again. It really kind of brings it all together in a way that is totally grokkable. This isn't necessarily high art, although it's got some, themes worked into it. So it's not, completely devoid of culturally nutritious content. But it's, I kind of think it's an exemplar of the form, and it's a great model for people to emulate, this kind of hybrid of a D&D module, a video game, a live theatrical performance, but using these VR tools we have. The only kind of downside there is when it comes to this particular experience is that it is on a PC only platform. That platform is unlikely to get headset-y, like standalone headset-y anytime soon, because it's a very small team that makes it. But if you are equipped with that and you want to, chop it up with some actors while running through a game, this is the way to go.
Awesome. Thanks for talking about that, Noah. If you want to learn any more about this, you can listen to the latest Review Crew for a much more in-depth rundown of The pick. Tune in the Discord next Wednesday for the next review crew, where we'll be talking about shows that might be pick of the week, and then tune in to this podcast to find out what the pick is.
We've now reached that part of the show where we like to check in with our friends from around the Immersiverse. Joining us this week is Ian Hamilton, managing editor of Upload VR, who's going to talk to us about some of the XR shenanigans out in the world, and there sure are a lot of them. Hello, Ian.
Hello, everyone.
Is it just me, or is this like the busiest news cycle out of the XR world in years? It feels like 2012 all over again.
Yeah, so I remember I was at CES in January when I think the Oculus Rift went on sale in 2016, and the site broke. Everyone crushed the website when the end price was actually announced for the original Oculus Rift. And, I think a lot of people went out and got Rifts, and they were used and loved, and they're still being used and loved today. But we're at a different scale today. I would call this the biggest cycle in history for VR.
We were talking before we started recording, and as I always do with folks in this segment, ask them sort of what's top of mind. And for you said that's meta, but not quite necessarily in the way that maybe everyone, when they hear that now, is thinking. So just riff, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get going here. So, metaverse is the term that all the tech executives are using these days to describe this interconnected technology ecosystem that they'd all like to build and profit from. And I think it is a little bit distracting from the underlying enabling technology for some of the most advanced use cases. And I think it's perfectly fair to call metadata this underlying technology layer that is going to fundamentally make a metaverse function. And as long as we're talking about this vision that the tech executives want us to be thinking about, maybe we're not actually thinking about how fundamentally this stuff works on an underlying layer. And I think it's so significant. I'm going to credit where it is due. So significant that Facebook would take this step of deleting their facial recognition database, their tagging feature.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I was honestly surprised that they went and did that. I mean, we have to trust that they actually did it, but even taking that stance I did not expect that at all.
So there's Black Mirror. I love that Black Mirror has done all of this before, right? So there's already references in Black Mirror, and they're all dystopian, and that's always going to be that criticism. And if you go back to every science fiction story that it has been popular and gone famous, it's almost universally a dystopia. But there are utopian fiction stories out there, and there's stories that guide us and help us be ready for what's to come. And I really do hate that science fiction is what's guiding us, but we need to have really direct discussions about some of the underlying terminology here. Like there is a conversation between journalists and Facebook for the in advance of their rebranding announcement. And there's a difference between facial recognition and I have to think of the other term, but there's a difference between a pair of glasses or a computer system seeing a face and then comparing that face against a database. Going and using that face to identify it amongst a billion other faces. And we have to have really frank discussions, precise discussions about specifically what these technologies are doing. And I recorded a podcast right prior to Facebook announcing that they were shutting down the facial recognition system on its legacy system. And I basically pointed out this exact opposition situation where they had this database to bring to bear at any time they wanted. You're walking around with sunglasses powered by Facebook technology today. There's people everywhere walking around with Ray-Bans with cameras on them. And those are recording videos and photos going to phones where they could be analyzed in the exact same way that Facebook analyzes every other image that goes into its system. And it would be really easy to even find out strangers' faces out on the street, potentially, especially if there's geotagging involved. So I brought this all up maybe days before the announcement. And, Facebook dumping that entire database is exactly the step they should have taken to make good on this larger promise and rebranding that Mark Zuckerberg and Andrew Bosworth say that they're embarking upon. So yeah, again, credit where it's due. That's the right step. The reason I brought up Black Mirror earlier is I always wondered, did someone make a copy of that database? Is there a way that is there a record of the retention of that data and how it was accessed? And is there at any time can someone just go get it?
Yeah, or people finding other ways to get that data, right? I mean, there's some really great. God, the name of it slips my mind at the moment. There was a good piece, I think it was in either Sundance or South by this year, that was just a little interactive that was all about the giant photo database and how it's learned so much through tagging, right? So this started off with Flickr, and Flickr. It's been so long since I've said that word. I was like, is that right? Where and that stuff's being bought by places like Palantir, and these databases are being used to do border control stuff in Israel and Palestine, right? I was just reading saw a headline. You shouldn't say reading an article if you didn't read the article. There's a headline today about there's a company that uses facial recognition software to compare someone coming through a border checkpoint, and it just flashes a red or a green to tell them something like this. It's there's a flashing light comes on to tell the person to get to detain them. And this is how this technology gets used. I kind of feel and to your point about having frank conversations about this stuff, that if there's one thing that that education system does not prepare us for, it's to really understand the systems of the world and how they're built and layered and integrated. Mm-hmm. And it's darkly ironic because when you look at the people who are getting inspired and going out and building stuff, the people who build this stuff clearly excited by the systems of the world. They're really fascinated about how technology shapes behavior, how supply chain shapes behavior, how math and academics and all of these things. They may draw their names from Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, but there's as much to the fact that he wrote a book called The System of the World that was just about it was about the algebra and about the calculus and about just literally the way in which the world's economy works and how these sort of things flow with us forever. And that we've been living through this moment of reorganizing everything because of the internet, right? Re-tagging the whole world, which is what the metadata ultimately is. It's how we tag a piece of information, how we sort it. And I see this reflection in literally in the way people behave, right? I see a lot of the emphasis in the last two generations on identity and how someone's identified and labeled. I see that as a reflection of this meta process our culture's been going through about figuring out how to teach the machines to see us?
Well, I talked about the idea of car. I feel like I'm right at the edge of like it's almost like we're at this. We've crossed this threshold where almost like any absurd idea that science fiction has proposed is going to be doable pretty soon. And that's that
Sadly,
is
not
you, the looking
hyperspace.
glass.
I wish we had hyperspace. That would solve our problems. Just
I mean,
light
when
speed
you've got,
indoor.
yeah, I know. I mean, what happens when you've got perfect AR glasses that map the environment around you, and they can, intelligently reskin the environment to look like Endor, and to have speeder bikes going by. I mean, there's literally papers on the latest papers in computer vision as we speak, as we record this in time, are showing how in real time or near real time, they're moving towards this idea of identifying objects, removing them, replacing them with something else. This feature that we've seen in Photoshop conferences where there's some engineer at Adobe who spent like 6 months of their time figuring out how to have a photo, and you could make the photo wider horizontally and it'll automatically content fill. It'll look at the left hand of the frame and fill in the gap for that frame. Well, that's one frame per however long that process takes. Now they're getting the computer systems to look at a moving camera and identify all the objects in it, remove them, replace them with sci-fi objects, and perhaps show you that is the end game here. So there's the game that we see with a system like Pokemon Go. The AR on my phone today is the weakest part of the whole game. But what happens when we have glasses that can really convince you that a Pikachu is running out from a bush or running out from a tree and fighting a giant onyx out in the field behind your house? One thing I want to respond to about your sort of reorganization of the world or the systems that kids learn. I again, credit where it's due. Magic Leap's conference a couple years ago, where they had a developer conference before they ran out of money and sort of redirected the company, lost a whole bunch of people. They held this conference and they talked about layers being layered on top of the world for different things. And I just watched this Niantic conference where they announced their AR development kit. And there was a fairly large showing for this concept of a flower being identified and being able to get information about that flower while you're looking at it. And, when I'm looking at Niantic, I don't know how to pronounce it. When I'm looking at Pokemon Go Creators Company announcing, showing off that feature, I see a use case I legitimately would want day in and day out to learn more about the world. Turn-by-turn directions. For the first time, I used Google's AR step-by-step directions, where when you hold the phone down and you're looking at it flat, you're seeing a 2D map of the environment, and it's got a compass, so it turns with you as you turn your hand. And then if you raise the phone vertically, it changes into AR mode and becomes your window screen into this world, and it shows you in your environment where you need to be turning next. That's another killer feature that I am so looking forward to with AR glasses. And it's becoming easier. Like this season, going back to sort of the start of this conversation, I'm wearing the Ray-Ban sunglasses, Wayfarer sunglasses that Facebook sent me, and testing them out to understand really deeply how it's going to change things when those glasses let someone stand with me who isn't actually there. So there is I've got, plenty of people I can think of who can't physically make it to the dog park and watch dogs running around or my dogs running around. And if my glasses are scanning the environment around me and I can share that with 1 or 5 people, and they can, in real time, kind of be represented as an avatar out on the field with my sunglasses. I had a conversation with someone out there with the sunglasses out on the dog park, explaining that, like, yeah, that's exactly how this functions, and they got it. Like,
Yeah.
that's a big difference from 5 years ago when you had to, like, tell a person not to lean around in their cell phone VR headset because the VR headset doesn't recognize that movement.
Well, even there's a layer of this where, or a future. I mean, it's one thing for, now we've got the camera facing outward and we're having, a FaceTime like conversation, but you're I'm seeing what you're seeing, right? And that's coming into us in real time. And then there's another layer where it's, all right, whoever's serving up this conversation, whatever platform we're using, has enough information on that dog park that it can extrapolate based off the changes in order to create a, if not perfectly photorealistic, then a pretty good facsimile of that in a VR space. So like I could be strapped into a Quest, you could be out there with the Ray-Bans on, we could be having a conversation, and I can see, not just what you're seeing, but I can maybe see it from my point of view. And in a world where the AR glasses can show like a holographic version of myself, where I'm standing like 4 or 5 feet away, and facing a slightly different direction, we could share that space together because it's picking up enough, information from all the other cameras that are there.
Yeah, and reliving moments, just like the dad in Minority Report who lost his little boy. Just like that. There's so many. Yeah, we could point to all this sci-fi, but like that still doesn't describe how all the humans on the planet are going to respond when some people have cameras and enhanced hearing, and other people do not.
Well, some of that reminds me of conversations I remember in the 80s, particularly when people thought genetic engineering was going to be a lot more advanced. I remember these spreads in Time magazine when I was a kid talking about the Olympics in 2020. And there was one that was showing like normal sized people, like standing on platforms to deal with like oversized Olympians, as if we were making like mini Titans to like compete in the games, because that's how far things were pressing. And so there's still our wetware, there's still what the human brain can kind of handle when it comes to processing all that information, right? Like there's enhanced hearing so we can hear more, but can our brains really manage all that? I feel like we already have tons of focus problems.
I'm not ready to conceptualize direct neural input with computers. Like I can't.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just literally talking about just trying to track all of the things that we already do. Right.
Well, so that was the other thing. Yeah. So going back to kind of like, well, all right. So there was a thing you mentioned earlier about the way kids understand the world and kind of like the appropriate age for some of these things I start to think about. So I moved recently to Arkansas, and I've been exploring the hiking trails here. And there's just miles and miles and miles of these hiking trails that are just absolutely gorgeous. Deer running through them, creeks, waterfalls, and there's trails made for bicyclists and for hikers and for walkers, for runners. Like it's every kind of way you would want to explore nature. You could, but it's such a far removed, different set of people or different circumstances than the at-home VR headset use case. that is kind of like making it so popular right now. So the company that Meta just bought, Supernatural, making this fitness app, that's the getting your workout in home in the privacy of your home because going to the gym isn't working for you is an entirely different use case from getting out and seeing the world. And the type of eyewear or even audio headset that would sort of enhance that overall experience. And I don't know whether the market is larger for the at-home version of the glasses or the out and about enhancing your experience walking around the world version of the glasses. It's just we're getting very close to certain use cases being fulfillable in a really satisfying way with a live world map that can be updated in a timely manner. A real time is going to be hard, but in a timely manner is going to be doable short term. And one day we're going to have multiple. The reason I brought up all this, like hiking and outdoor and nature, is like if I'm a bicyclist looking at a given environment, there's a completely different layer of information I need about the world around me at that given moment. And it's a different layer of information than the person who's a pedestrian and walking around. And that's yet again different from the person who's driving around. And your options on what you want to do next and what you might notice about the environment are different in all those contexts. And I need different hardware and different software to help me in all of those situations. And going back to the beginning of this, like, okay, Facebook and Epic and VR Chat can all agree that avatars need to be interoperable between these systems. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of like press release or agreement that they're all going to agree on some kind of avatar standard. But like, how do you ask the permission of the people around you to share their location, their appearance, all their presence in public? What right do you have to record and identify those people for all time to the fidelity that you're going to be able to in the next 5 or 10 years?
Big questions that we're going to all need to wrestle with. Ina Hamilton, managing editor of Upload VR, thank you so much for cracking open some questions we all need to mull over. and we'll have you back on the show at some point and maybe talk about this a little more. Get some more of the journalism gang together and have a go.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Let me go galaxy brain on you all, and come read uploadvr.com and read about the latest games. But clearly, we've got very long plans here for how this stuff is going to change life, and we'll be covering that too.
We've now reached the end of the show, and kind of a fun mix this week. We got your XR, we got your live, we've got your philosophical coming at a couple different levels. So I'd like to give you a lot to think about. Just so you know what's coming up for the rest of the year, we do have another Produce piece coming up. I've got the elements in it in the can. I'm really excited about doing that again. We've also got a holiday gift guide show coming. We're going to have our end of the year shows. So we're going to get the journalist roundtable together again, and we're definitely going to do the critics picks. Are we gonna do awards this year like we did last year? I haven't decided yet. Are we gonna do fan voted awards if we do them? I also haven't decided yet. We did that last year as a way of, trying to like bolster everybody's spirits. And it did great traffic for us. It also like kind of brought out the worst in people. I'm always reluctant on this because like there's such a double-edged sword, right? On the one hand, it's like, oh wow, attention, and people get to like, put laurels on and like, oh, fun. Other hand, like everyone starts like competing. And so yeah, it's under advisement. Let me tell you, running that whole operation, we might not do it until we might not do the awards until like early next year after the summit. In fact, maybe that's when you should expect them if we're going to do them. That also sort of changes the dates. So yeah. Anyway, for those who might have been wondering, who have a long memory, that's what's up with that. Here, I'm going to tease some stuff for the next stage. We are not done announcing like headliners yet. I know it feels kind of ridiculous. We're like, I don't want to say how many weeks out because it'll scare me, but we're less than 2 months out. We're still announcing headliners. We have less than the full 200 badges to sell, but we definitely still have a good number of badges left. If you're thinking about it, I'll just say it's going to make my decision-making easier if more people lock their badges down. That lets me do things like commit to putting people up and flying people out. So just know that the longer you wait and hold out, the less of a budget I have to play with, the less good the experience is. It's pretty much just that way. That also being said, if you're interested in sponsoring, like if you've got that ability, we're definitely interested in talking to you. We've got some great conversations going on with some potential sponsors. And so hopefully have like more to pack into the experience, but we could always use more. And there's room at the table. And yeah, look, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic event. When it all boils down, when we add up everyone who's going to be in the room, there's going to be like less than 500 people on campus entirely. We're going to be running 4 tracks at once at certain times. There's other times we're just going to be running 1 track. We've got Disney Imagineering on board. We've got the Royal Shakespeare Company. We've got Department Studios with Arkham Asylum on board. We've got Redacted, and we've got Redacted, and we've got Redacted. I so want to tell you what's up. I do delight in teasing you like this. I need you to trust me. I need you to pick up your badge. For those of you who are wondering how streaming is going to work, because there's just the 1-day pass on sale right now. We're going to announce next week the rest of those details. I'll give you a hint. The smartest thing you can do for yourself if you are definitely not able to attend, right? Financially, all the reasons. Trust me, I do get it. Pick up the 1-day streaming badge now. We're not going to put that many 3 days on sale. And those people who have 1 days will have priority on access. The other thing is this. Streaming is not our big emphasis. So we're going to have 1 stream coming out of 1 room for the duration, and everything else will be VOD once it's ready to go. How that exact process is going to work is still being developed, but our resources in terms of staff time means that we have to stay focused on the live event. So yes, the streaming, for all intents and purposes, is an afterthought, and the pricing structure will be scaled appropriately. So if you were hoping for like if you're hoping even for something like on the level of like what we did with Spring Fling or the previous ones, it is not going to be that. Like as far as a hybrid goes, it's going to be a passive online experience. Full stop. We will still bring you plenty of value, if that's the only way you can interact. But if you want the full experience, if you want the full interaction, if you want access to the festival, right? You want to be there in person. We will be raising the price. It may raise next Friday. We may push that back if we have a big announcement. We want to give everyone as much information as they can, but we need to make sure that people grab those badges so we can pull this off. That's the deal. That's how it goes. We are bootstrapping as always, as we've always done. I will say one more thing about sponsoring. We have a fiscal sponsor, Producer Hub, who are out of the Tank in New York City. And that means that contributions to the Institute, which produces the show and which will be, the owner of NoPro, as we set up our 501c3 here, those are tax deductible. So if you're interested in giving to us that way, hit us up, let us know, reach out to us. You can reach out to me, Noah at noproscenium.com. I will direct you to the proper place. All right. Those of you who are still listening, thank you. Let's do the credits. Big thank you to our sustaining backers. They are Ari Hurston, Brittany, Deborah Robinson, Elaine, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentes, David Bassick, Lonnie Hanson, Paul Farnell, Mark Baltazar, Samuel Mustry, Sydney Guillory, and Jan Budman. Thank you all. The associate producer of this podcast is Parker Sella. Music is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. Catherine Yu is the executive editor of NoPro and does our headlines. And this podcast is written, edited, hosted, produced, mixed, screwed up, rambled on by yours truly. I'm Noah Nelson. And until next time, I'll see you at the show.